Hi everyone, welcome back to the channel. My name is Vanessa and I am an indie author from Toronto, Canada, and I publish under a pen name A.N. Sage. If you are new to this channel, welcome. So excited to have you here. You'll see that on the channel I mostly post videos about writing, entrepreneurship, running creative businesses, tips and tricks, and behind the scenes, and a lot of planning and stationery type of videos because I love me some planners. So I would absolutely love to have you here as part of our little growing community here. So I'd love it if you subscribe if that sounds like something that's up your alley. And as I mentioned, I am an indie author. That is what I do as part of the living that I make as an entrepreneur. And I write in the young adult genre and mostly in fantasy and pretty much paranormal type books. And today is a very exciting video because this week, I have just released my 15th book. So I've published 14 full novels so far in my career. I say 14. It could be more, could be less, depending on how you look at it. I do have a novella, and I do count it as part of the books because it is over 40,000 words, so it's pretty close to a full book. I've also published a book before that I've since unpublished. So whichever way you look at it, it's either 15 or 16 books that I currently have with this new one that came out. And the one that came out this week is The Things the River Hides, and I am so obsessed with this cover. I know I've shown this on the channel before, but if you haven't seen, this is the hardcover. It does have like a jacket, and it does have a special designed hardcover spine on it, and the book obviously also comes in ebook, and it comes in paperback format, which I have the KDP sample format right here, the ARC version of the paperback. So if you are an author, an indie author, or if you're looking to get like physical books, just before we get into the celebration, because this is a celebration video because I'm so excited about this book coming out. But if you are looking at KDP, you can do pre-orders with paperbacks through Amazon. You can do them through Ingram Spark. But I prefer the paperbacks that Amazon has because A, they're cheaper to print, and so it makes it easier for me to price them cheaper for people, just to kind of accommodate like a lower price point, which I know most people would want. They ship faster, and they're just a bit less of a hassle. And quality-wise, they're almost the same. Ingram Spark is just a little bit better in my opinion, but they're not enough that it's worth it, but you can do pre-orders. So the paperbacks actually just went live as I'm filming this. I'm filming this on Wednesday. The book released yesterday on Tuesday, and it's been such a whirlwind. I'm so happy with how the release went. There's like a lot of reviews still trickling in. They just started coming in now. So I'm really, really excited about all of that. I'm super proud of this book. But the paperback, actually, as I'm filming this on Wednesday and you're seeing this on Thursday, it just went live today. So you can now get the paperback or hardcover. The hardcover have been really, really popular this time. I haven't done a hardcover version for any of my books in a while. When I first published, I did have hardcovers available for the Etherborn saga, but since then I've taken them off. And I just do paperbacks now. And for Shadowhurst, I only had paperbacks available. So this was a really exciting thing for me to have like a hardcover. And I'm just so happy. It's a hefty book. Let's see how many pages is the hardcover. So the hardcover is 6x9, and it is acknowledgements, 350 pages pretty much. On a 6x9, and then the paperback is a 5x8 size, and it is 300 and about like 85 pages. So not a small read, but the story needed to be longer. It's not a short story for the most part. If you know my books, you know I don't write short. Shadowhurst has some shorter books in it. The shortest full, not counting that 40,000 word novella, but the shortest full book I think I've written to date is around like 65,000, 70,000 words. So usually my books sit around somewhere between 70,000 words to 120,000. So they get hefty, but they are still condensed. That's as condensed as I can make them, considering I have a lot of twists, a lot of plot, sometimes a lot of characters. So it does take a bit to get through all that. But I thought we could do like a quick little celebration on this channel for this book, just because I'm so proud. Like, I'm just so happy about it. So if you don't know what the book is about, The Things the River Hides is actually a YA darker fantasy. It skews on the darker contemporary fantasy side. It is based on a fairly obscure, not as well-known Eastern European myth of a winter goddess. And it revolves around a 16-year-old girl who has the special ability to foretell death, and with such has become a pariah in the town that she lives in. Now, the funny thing about this town is there is a river that runs through the town that has some pollution in it. That has made the river turn the color of blood, and so it attracts a lot of tourists, which makes being a pariah in a town that's full of tourists even more difficult. So the story is about our main character, Nastya. She works for her mom's funeral home, and she helps her out because obviously no one else will hire her. And the main story begins when the body of a boy arrives at her morgue, seemingly from a car accident. However, very soon after, another boy shows up, and this one is very much alive and very well, and he claims that his friend's accident was not an accident at all. And so Nastya reluctantly begins to investigate, and as things unfold, we start to find things out. There are dark secrets, there's a desperate race to save a life, and there is some magical realism elements in the book. Quite a lot of it woven throughout. You'll find found family, new friendships developed, a subplot of a possible love story, and just the general adventure and a coming of age story of a girl that is learning how to accept that being different is actually the thing that's going to help her save everybody else around her. So that is the basis of The Things the River Hides. And I thought maybe we could read just like a little part of the first chapter or something, just to kind of give you guys a little bit of an idea of more or less what you'll be getting into as far as like rating and the story goes in this book. Now so technically the book starts with an epigraph, so there are epigraphs throughout the, I don't know if you saw that because of the light, but there are epigraphs throughout the book, but it's from a POV, different POV, and I will not tell you what it is because there will be spoilers. This is a mystery, right? So we're solving some murders, and so I can't really give away anything. Sorry, but let's see. So first chapter that we begin. This is all written from Nastya's point of view. Whoever said the dead don't talk lied. All you have to do is learn how to listen. Some bodies are definitely loud, yelling demands and pushing their life stories down your throat. Others are quiet, barely a whisper of song floating through the air and vanishing into nothingness. But they all talk. At least that's what it feels like. I stare down at the bloated corpse before me and bite down on my tongue. The skin is silky smooth, unnatural from all the chemicals pumped into it. Perfect. My hand almost never shakes anymore, and when I pick up the airbrush gun to apply the first layer of makeup to the poor bastard lying on the slab before me, I don't even waver. The pain glides on in waves, a glimpse of life returning to an otherwise empty shell. I shift my weight. Don't go so heavy with the blush this time, my mother says. She looks up from the stack of paperwork on her desk, studying my every move like a predator. The family requested a natural appearance. It's hard not to laugh. Impossible, even. The family must have been confused because, as far as I can tell, there is nothing natural about what I have to do to their loved one. But Mother says we didn't pick our work, it picked us. A lie. No matter how hard I dwell on it, I cannot recall when I agreed to this dreadful life of helping her run the Cherry Cove funeral home. We lived in the small town of Cherry Cove for as long as I can remember. A typical coastal town with typical coastal folk. Despite the low population, you still need a car to get around, and most people own large pieces of property, making neighbors a rare thing to come by. Cherry Cove survives on 3 things: fishing, tourism, and a whole lot of judgment. You can't take one step without stepping in gossip, and it's gotten even worse since the river became polluted, the water turning an eerie shade of red and dragging in people from all over the country to come see it. With tourists keeping our sad little town afloat, everyone is on their best behavior, at least in public. In the privacy of their own homes, all bets are off. Behind unlocked doors, the townspeople whisper behind each other's backs and dissect everyone that sets foot on their territory. I should know, I've been a topic of much conversation for most of my life. Living in Cherry Cove's only funeral home does not help. So that's kind of like where we get to know a little bit about Nastia and her predicament. As the story continues, we find out more and more about what her special ability is and why she's so different and why she is the town pariah. So I actually asked some readers to send me a few questions that I thought it might be fun to answer here. I'm not going to do a lot. I think I picked like 5 of the ones that I could answer fairly quickly on here, and I have them on my phone. I'm just going to pull them up. But I thought they might be fun to answer, to kind of get into the headspace of why I wrote this book, why I think it's such an important book for me. So one of the questions that was sent in was, how did you choose the myth for the story? And so I didn't really choose. I don't think I set off and I said, you know what, I'm going to pick this myth. I think the character of Nastia originally came to me as like this idea of I was toying with the concept of almost like a harpy type of creature, just like a foreteller of death of sorts, but I didn't like the idea of how those were normally, how just death foretellers were normally portrayed. And being Eastern European myself, so I don't know if you know this, but I live in Canada now. I wasn't born in Canada. I was born in Moscow, Russia, and we moved when I was 8 years old. And we kind of moved around a bit until we settled here. I've lived in the States, I've lived in Israel, we lived in a few different places, but we settled here. So my background is in Eastern Europe is fairly developed, and I grew up listening to all these like myths and fairy tales, and a lot of them, some were very well known, of course, but there was a lot of like obscure ones. That like the myth that I decided to base this story on is somewhat obscure. It's a festival that takes place to judge away the winter and bring on the spring. But it's so traditional that it's actually taking less and less it takes place less and less now, so less people celebrate it. But the idea was that you create this effigy of a goddess of winter. Her name is Marina in Russian. She's Mariana in this book, which is more Polish, I believe. But you create this effigy of her and you burn her and you drown her in the river because she's the goddess of winter and death. And so you drown her out to bring on the spring. And that's kind of the celebration. And it's such an obscure myth where like the actual celebration, the festival itself is fairly popular, especially in certain regions of Eastern Europe. But the myth itself, it took a lot of research. I think I spent probably 4 or 5 months doing some heavy research. I've had texts. My Russian's a bit rusty, so I've had text translated for me. I've had like different like specialty libraries. I had to go through lots of online research, calling people back in the home country, talking to them about it. And so there's like a lot of stuff you can learn if you do that. And I'm not going to give away the full myth because it is really important for the book. So if you want to read it, I'm not going to give you any spoilers. But the more I studied about it, the more it became obvious to me that the story of Nastya and the story of this Murzana, this goddess of winter and death, were so incredibly intertwined together that I absolutely had to kind of take this idea of someone who can foretell death with a touch and switch it on its head by introducing this myth of an obscure goddess of death, right? And so if you read the book, you'll find out a lot more about it. But that's basically kind of like how I chose the myth. I didn't really choose it. I was just kind of looking for like foretells of death in different cultures. I didn't start with making this like an Eastern European myth at all. I started looking at how death foretells are played out, how other cultures view them, how they describe them, and I just happened to randomly land on this particular myth, this festival, and something went off where I was like, oh yeah, I kind of remember this from when I was a kid. I remember the festival from when I was a kid, and that the connection got a bit stronger from there. So that's how I chose this myth. I guess you could say chose. And another question was, somebody said, Nastya is such a different character from your other books. Why did you write her this way? So Nastya is a very different character. If you read my other books, you know that most of the other female characters, at least I write, are very kick-ass, right? They're very strong. They're very opinionated. They're not usually, especially like Billy from Shadowhurst, like no mess with this girl, right? She'll tell you where to shove it right away. Nastya, on the other hand, she's an outsider. So the only other character I think I would probably say I could kind of compare her to is Sid from Cartago. And Sid has never been around people, right? So she was like a recluse. And Nastya is almost a recluse, but it's because nobody wants her. And so she was a very different character to write. She's a sad character to write because I kept having to put myself in her shoes. And it's tough to kind of do that with somebody who is 16, who nobody wants, who people treat very poorly for something she can't control, and it's somebody who's like me, like an immigrant. I started really connecting to her in that way because when we first moved and came to Canada, I felt very much like a recluse, like nobody wanted me. I didn't speak the language well. So there were things I didn't control that made me an outsider in the world I desperately wanted to fit into. And Nastya kind of has that, but the difference with her is that she's accepted her fate. And then when her fate turns upside down and something happens that makes her not just question everything that she believed about herself, but something that spurs on this new excitement and this need to venture out into the world, whether the world wants her or not. I started connecting to her even more. And so it's not that she was like me. She wasn't like me at all, but I became like her. And so I think the reason that I wrote her this way is the more that I wrote her, the more I understood her, and the more that she became her own person. So hopefully that answers that. And then somebody asked, is this a series? So no, it's not a series. It is a standalone novel. It's very much a standalone. It's not open-ended at all. It definitely ends the way it's supposed to end. And I did not want to make this into a series. I've written a lot of series before, but I think the next couple of books I'm going to write are going to be standalone books. Well, we'll see. Sometimes you never know. But as far as the schedule goes right now, they are standalone books. So this is not a series, no. How do you think of the twists in your books? So I do plot some of the twists. I plot some of the twists, and then some of the twists just kind of come to you. So I have plotted, I think about maybe 70% of the twists in this book were originally plotted. But the main twist towards the end, I'm not going to tell you what any of the twists are, of course, because I knew the ones that were plotted, they were there because I'm a plotter, and so they needed to hit certain beats, and so I knew obviously what they were going to be. The ones that were not plotted, especially the big twist at the end, that came to me when I was on a walk one time. I was taking a walk, and I was just kind of thinking, about the book, and something just wasn't there. Something wasn't right. I had the ending figured out. Everything was ready to go. But I just couldn't write it, right? And as I was walking, this one thing came to me and I was like, oh my God, what if that's the big twist? And because of that twist, a few other twists had to happen earlier on. And so one thing spurned another. And that's kind of the way I think of twists is usually I will plot some twists to hit the major beats that I need to hit, and the rest will kind of come to me as I'm writing. So it's a combination of plotting and pantsing when it comes to twists. And then let's see. Well, this one's good. Who was your favorite character in the book? So we'll do this one as like kind of like the last, because we'll only do a few. We're already running a long video here. But I think it's hard to pick, right? Because I do love, like, obviously Nastya, the main character, and Daxon was great to write too. Ali was, I think, a good runner-up for me. Ali's great. Really loved her as a character. But I gotta say that, like, Nastya's mom, it was my favorite character to write. Something about her, she was so straightforward. She was like, no bullshit. And she was just so misunderstood in her ways of how she treated Nastya, because I really think that she treats her fairly poorly. But there's quite a lot we don't know as to why she behaves the way she behaves. And I just thought she was fun to write because the dynamic between the two of them was so important. It's like mother and me kind of thing. And it was so important for Nastya's growth and development to have her mother in her life, and for her mother to be the way that she is. So it was just her presence, not even just her character. I'd say her presence in the book was my favorite part. So we'll do that. There's like a couple more, but I think I can answer those in like my reader group or something, just for this video's sake. It's getting very long. But as far as the release goes, I'm super excited. Make sure if you're just like watching this, go check it out. Some of the stuff that I've been posting on social media with other people I've been posting. I've been doing a bunch of stuff on TikTok too, and Facebook, Instagram, the whole deal. So just go check it out and see. And if you want to grab a copy, if you get a signed copy of either the paperback or the hardcover off my website, you get like a bunch of swag that goes with it. You can also get this off my website. I don't know if you can see if I can. Yeah. So it's like a little poppy. So poppies are very important. The poppy flower is very important, both to the myth of Marzana, but also to the book. And so this is like a little bracelet with a, let's see if I can get it to focus, with a little poppy. It's not focusing. It's okay. So it's a gold bracelet, like a gold little charm, and it's a gold leather bracelet that's adjustable, and it's got a poppy on it, and you can get those off my site as well, and they just kind of go with the book. So I'm wearing that all week in celebration. So yeah, you got a bunch of swag if you order the signed copies, and then the ebooks are available, and the book is available on all platforms. So it's like all major retailers have them. You can even get the hardcover on Barnes and Nobles as well. And you can get it off Amazon too, same with the paperback. So they are everywhere. So whichever way you read, you can read this book. Thank you for the support. If you are going to pick it up, I am so excited, and I'm just going to show it again, but yay. This is so exciting. So I'm going to have a bit of a break between book publishing because I am having a baby. So I'm going to be writing while I'm on that leave. So the next book that's going to come out is going to be the final book in the Shadowhurst world, and I have started plotting it, and I have filmed a video on some of my initial plotting stages. So that's going to be I'm going to show you guys that in March. I have it scheduled for March. And so that's going to be fun. But for now, this is going to be kind of like my big hurrah for the next, I don't know how many months. We'll see how the whole baby thing goes. It's our first one, so it might be a bit of getting used to. But yeah, with that said, thank you for joining me today for this little, I know it's a bit different because we usually do like tips or something like that, but I really wanted to celebrate because, I am an author. This is an author channel. And I really wanted to celebrate with you guys the release. So thank you for joining me and for celebrating with me. And thank you for subscribing. If you have subscribed or you're going to subscribe, you guys are amazing. And I'm so excited to kind of have this community and keep growing it. And hopefully you are happy to be here. So as always, I hope you stay magical and I will see you next week. Bye.